Welcome back guys to the Architectural Insider. Today we have a special video. It's a challenge video between me versus surviving architecture. The whole point of this challenge was to recreate this render. It's a viewing tower. Now what we're doing is we're not both doing the same one. Each is doing a different angle of the render. I'm doing this one and the surviving architecture is doing this one. Now it's up to you guys who wins. You have to comment down below. Now before I actually started the actual render, I looked at the one I'm recreating and I looked at images of forests so that I don't have to keep going on Google, going back, finding a similar image, so that I already have many images and I can just open and close them in Photoshop. Now the first thing I did was make the hill, and I used this using the clipping mask and using the stamp tool to add a variety of vegetation on the actual hill. Now to fill up the background, I added more trees and lowered the opacity to show the depth of field. When you add trees, it's important to find PNG files, as these already have the white or any background already taken off, so that you don't waste time taking away the background. I then duplicated them on the left side to show that there is a hill, which is why it's going down. Now the important thing is to change the color of these trees. If you keep them all the same, I promise you it will look very weird and boring, because in a forest they're not all the same. They're all maybe different shade or a different color of green. Now what I did then is I created a mask and only changed the color. Now the color, I didn't change it to like a fancy color, just a kind of reddish. I'm then getting an image of a hill and I'm putting that under the trees to show where the trees are sitting on and to show the hill that goes down. Now the whole point of this viewing tower is to have a very nice view. Now on the background I will add a lake, which I will duplicate just to make it longer, and the sky will be very light because you're very high in the air, so the sky will get very light white. Now I was very happy with this render how it is, but there is one really big mistake that just ruins everything. Yes, you're right, it's the hill. The hill, it just doesn't look real. It doesn't look like something that people would walk on to get to the viewing tower. It looks complete crap. So what I will do is I will go on Google and find an image of a floor path in the forest. Again, I will use the clipping mask to get the right angle and get the right position of this floor. After adding it, it still doesn't have a very realistic look of the hill going down. So I added some high grass. I tried to be clever and turn it into a brush, change the color of the brush, and I just have to keep clicking instead of using the actual image. It didn't work. As you can see, I went a bit crazy. To make those grass look more realistic and more natural, I grouped them in threes, and each one has a different height, width and length, and then these I just duplicated throughout the path going down, and it looks much more better. So now the initial forest is done. I can move on to the building and come back to the forest later on. So I use the selection tool to select the area that I want and added a dark wood texture. For some reason I just couldn't get it come out very dark. It just got me very annoyed, and I just got a new texture, finished, that's it. I just couldn't mess around with all the colors anymore. Moving on to the actual building, what I did is I found the dark wood texture and I selected the texture and to edit, define pattern, and then wrote down the text of the pattern. This is also a way to turn any image on Photoshop into a pattern. Added another texture just over it, but it's a very light and it just makes it more realistic and it gives it some 3D to it. Windows are very important to a building and mine don't look very good. However, it's nothing we can't change with a bit of Photoshop magic. To make the shadows more visible and more dramatic, I selected the shadows, put it on a new layer and just made it black, lowered the opacity. It's one of the quickest, easiest and best ways to make your shadows more dramatic. I then added a few brush strokes here and there on the building just to make it more interesting and show some shadows of the trees and show the window frame shadows, etc. people are very important in renders. They show the viewer what's going on in that area. So I didn't want to add a lot of people because I don't want the focus to be the people. I want it to be the actual building. I then added the shadows of these people, and it's very simple. You just duplicate the layer, transform it, select it, make it black, lower opacity, done. I then played around with curves, and I love curves. You'll see me using it a lot. I just added curves because I think that curves are very important. They emphasize on shadows and light. Now I'm gonna do one thing that I was really excited about doing from the beginning of the render, is adding light rays. This is one thing that the render that I'm recreating doesn't have. However, I did say before that I'm gonna do some personal touches to it. Adding rays is very simple. You just add a gradient, turn it into a noise gradient and get it to black and white, and find the right distribution of your rays. Now the distribution shouldn't be too much black, too much white, or too many thin whites. It just has to be all even. It's hard to get. It took me a while to get it myself too. You will then choose angle and move it to whatever direction you want it to go. When you do this, you might want to change the distribution again. As long as you don't rasterize the layer, you can change it whenever you want and it will stay the same even after you've done many edits to it. So what you then do is add a Gaussian blur. I hope I said Gaussian right. Gaussian. Anyway, then you just add a color with the clipping mask and make it white yellowish to make it similar to the sun. You can see that I'm using curves again. The one thing that really changed my render was the color lookup, which you can find in the effects bar below. I then went to 3D LUT and selected Edge Amber. Then just lower the opacity and add a curve to highlight the shadows again. You can just clearly see the difference from before and after. To make clear it's a path towards the tower, I will add another person and change her to using shadows like I did with this previous guy. I then looked at the building and it looked very weird with those windows, and I always wanted to change them from the beginning. So instead of wasting time looking for new windows and new window frames, I just went to the windows, turned them black using the selection tool, duplicated the window into the other windows, job done. Now with these renders, I think it's very important to add hidden features. These are things that if you have a good look into the render you can find them, and just things that make it more interesting. If you can find these hidden features in the render that we are recreating, comment down in the comment section below. So what I'm gonna do is gonna add a squirrel. I did want to add a deer, but the deer was like, you're not having me in this render. It just wouldn't work. What I'm also adding, as you can see, are a few rocks. Now one thing that you should definitely do is name the layers. It is one thing that takes a lot of time, but I promise you, after doing it and you work with these new layers that you've named yourself, it is so easy to find everything. So that's the end of the render. I hope you guys enjoyed this render video. Make sure to watch Surviving Architecture's video on this render that also she's recreating, and let us know who won. Either comment down below here or comment down below on her channel. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe.